Hello, I'm Michael Mazek, and your closing is approaching. Here's what to expect on your big day. On the date of the closing, you're going to come to a title company office, like this. Ideally, you'll only have to spend an hour or so here. When you're at the title company, you'll find me. I'll be at the title company with you to review documents and make sure the closing process goes as smoothly as possible. But before you get to the title company, there are a few things to have in order. First, your funds for closing have to arrive at the title company. Your lender may give you an estimate of your figures. You should receive this in the form of a closing disclosure 3 days before the closing. It's often a bit too much. You can rely on this amount and get an overage back after the closing, or you can wait until the day before the closing until the figures are finalized, and you can perhaps cushion the final amount by a few $100s. Again, you'll get a refund at closing for any overage. The two methods for payment are cashier's check and wire. If your funds exceed $50,000, you'll have to wire the funds. If below, I suggest that you bring a cashier's check for the closing. You'll find the name of the title company on the closing confirmation. Cashier's checks should be made out to the title company and only take a short amount of time to prepare at your bank, so you can usually obtain it the morning of the closing or the day before. When funds are wired, things are a bit more complicated. There is, unfortunately, a lot of wire fraud taking place, and the level of sophistication among criminals has gone up significantly. Generally, the most common tactic is for an email to be sent to you from a compromised or fraudulent email account. That email may even look like a legitimate email, and it will direct you to wire funds to an incorrect account where the criminal will have access to your funds. For this reason, you should never accept wiring instructions via email from anyone other than the title company. Our office, for example, does not email wiring instructions to you for this specific reason. The safest way for you to get the wiring instructions is to call the title company once you get the closing confirmation. And then you can verify those wiring instructions. You can, for example, Google the name of the title company and call that number directly to verify the wiring instructions over the phone. Or some title companies have secured, encrypted methods of sending you the wiring instructions via email. Always make sure to call the title company to verify those wiring instructions. The wiring instructions consist simply of a bank name, the title company account number, and the routing number. Secondly, in preparation for your closing date, you should make sure that you have valid, unexpired state ID or passports. Since renewing a license takes a long time and renewing a passport takes even longer, it's important that these items are current for the closing, otherwise the closing may get delayed, or even worse, the buyer would be considered in default if the closing does not take place when scheduled. Third, you'll have a walkthrough of the property before you get to the closing. During this time, you have the chance to re-inspect the property to make sure it's in the same or reasonably similar condition as it was at the time of the inspection, excluding reasonable wear and tear. Small nicks and scratches are common and generally not something that we can ask the seller to repair or credit. However, significant damage, personal property left behind that is expensive to move, or fixtures that were removed are typically items that you can have the seller address. If something like this comes up, make sure to let me know as soon as possible so we can get it resolved prior to closing time and send me pictures if possible. So now we're at the closing day. And although signing takes about 100 pages worth of documents, it sounds daunting, but it really isn't. Many of the documents are form documents that the lender requires without modification. And in my time practicing law in this field since 2006, I have a good understanding of the documents we will be signing. So I can summarize many of them for you and discuss any issues or concerns you may have. At the closing, we'll meet the closer for the title company. The closer is employed by the title company, and she works to make sure that all the documents are signed, funds are in, and any items that need correction are fixed and that the file is dispersed properly. After closing, the closer ensures that the deed is recorded, the title company owner's policy is issued, and the closer returns any overage amount at closing. During the closing, I will review the title company documents and seller documents in addition to the loan documents. If needed, we can make any adjustments during the closing to these documents to make sure they reflect your understanding of the loan terms, the property you're purchasing, and the title policy you're receiving. All told, the closing will take about 90 minutes. It's usually scheduled for the title company office nearest the property, but if you prefer other locations, we can make those arrangements as well. When you leave the closing, you'll either have the keys or the lockbox code to get the keys, and you'll officially be the owner of the home. If you have any other questions about your closing day ahead, just give me a call and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. See you soon.